That's
I haven't got
lovely.
John yet. John is hoping will be joining us.
Yeah. So we just making some time here for everyone to connect. Everyone that is joining in are very welcome to switch on your camera. And hi, Alexandra. Good evening.
Evening.
Thank you for joining us.
Pleasure.
How was the ceremony? How was the ceremony on Wednesday? Did you enjoy it?
The evensong, it was wonderful, thank you. Choir is very famous and rightly so.
How lovely.
There's John. Hi, John.
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi, John.
Hi. Hello there.
We were just, as we were waiting for everyone to come in, we were, Nick has just got hold of a footage that I'm sure you have watched many times of this tall ship going around Cape Horn, but it's narrated by a sailor who is now in his 80s and a very strong accent, very strong English accent. And he's going to share it with everybody in the chat. Oh, the link is in the chat, actually. Have you ever seen that, John?
I don't know. I mean, I have to look. Let me see what we.
Yeah, it's just we're just in conversation, polar conversation, sailing conversation as we wait for everyone to come in. And we have our friends, the South Africans, Christelle. Hi, how are you?
All good, thank you very much.
Good, excellent. Let's see.
We'll just give everyone a couple more minutes.
How many people are you expecting?
Natty, how many people we have invited to the stream, more or less?
There you go. Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I haven't said hello yet. Well, we've invited everyone who's been confirmed on our voyage. So we've invited over 55 people.
Gracious.
Some have already said that they won't be able to join us, but this is being recorded. So after this this meeting ends, maybe tomorrow, we'll be sending the link in case anyone wants to watch the video again.
Thanks, Natty.
I can see Mark and Lisa are connected. Hi, how are you guys? Are you in Scotland or are you elsewhere in the world?
We're in Scotland just now.
Good.
Yeah. We might take off though. Now we're not going somewhere colder than where we are.
We'll think about it.
I was gonna say you can send us some polar weather our way. It's getting warmer here.
Oh, is it? That's nice.
I'm just seeing if Anthony Shields from Australia is joining us. Yes, he's with us. Hi, Tony.
Oh, Hi,
Very
Tony.
early in the morning for you.
Very. Thank you for making it.
And very late for our South Africans. I can see they've joined as well.
Yeah. Yeah. As we wait, just as we give everyone else a couple more minutes, and would you want to share with everyone that is connected how wonderful it is to have Tony with us and the work that you guys have been doing together?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, Tony and I, Tony, do feel free to unmute and add to it, but Tony and I have been working for several months now, getting these, Tony's always having to correct me because I'm very bad on stamp language, and it must really annoy him, but we've been getting these first day covers especially ready in a specially printed envelope as a gift for everyone. And well, I'm guessing, Tony, there's no reason why we can't do that at the end of the year. The stamps are still going to be there, and they are going to be very special. So we've been working on that for several months. Tony is, I mean, he's, I hope, do you say philatic? Am I right in saying that? King in Australia. He's the man who wheels and deals and stamps, and I know from his reputation, and I hear about it so often from other people, what an extraordinary business and knowledge he has of stamps, and I believe coins as well. So Tony, we're not giving up on this. We'll pick it up again, and we'll get these special first day cover stamps of this important Shackleton year and be able to give them to everyone. I think that sounds rather garbled, but I need Tony in there.
Thanks, Angie. And the other thing that we wanted to do with some of the covers was with some assistance from Zaz and a few others who we would like to sign some envelopes. We would actually like to then auction some on the ship and donate the funds to one of the local charities, preferably a conservation project or some such thing in South Georgia. But that option is still on the table to be able to done in a year's time. And there is no reason, as you say, why we can't do those envelopes still at the same time.
Great. Well, they're ready. They're on the press, ready to be printed. So, you know, it's it'll be great to do them. Anyway, so Caro, are we happy to go? Do you want to give it a couple more minutes for people, or can we start?
Let me check. I just want to welcome, obviously, our South African friends, and Diana and Christelle. Thank you for being there. Who else has come just now? Andrew, welcome. Oh, you put your camera. That's fantastic. Peter, thank you for being there too. I can see Dorothy, Jill, Joe, how are you? And Angela, we've never met, but I'm terribly excited about having you both, hopefully on our new quest date. So I think we have enough audience. We should, yeah.
Good. Well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us from really it is the four corners of the world, and it's sunrise for some, and others will be ready to go to bed. Those are my fellow South Africans. And we just really appreciate all of you joining us. And also, our team would like to thank you all for how understanding you've been and how supportive you've all been with what felt like a complete sort of, you know, train smash in a way for us. So thank you all so much. We are delighted to have John Mckeon, the CEO of Polar Latitudes, to join us and talk about what has happened and what will be happening. And it's great to have Nick Lambert, who's the chairman of the James Caird Society, and he will be our MC. And last but not least, of course, Alexandra Shackleton, Shackleton's granddaughter and the president of the James Caird Society. We thought it is important that you can all see each other, and we'd like you all to be muted until the end of the session, when we really do welcome all your questions, and we'll do our very best to answer them all. All you simply need to do is put up your hand, and Nick will remember to unmute yourself, and Nick will let you in. Or of course you can post questions on the message board, and we will do our best to answer all of those. I think what I ought to highlight, that for individual circumstances, when we get into the sort of the granular part of your particular problem, we'd like to discuss that directly with you on a one-to-one basis. But it's once again, thank you so much for joining us. And so John, who's the CEO of Polar Latitudes, would you like to come in and tell us about the situation in Ushuaia and why the decision to postpone was the best decision?
Yeah, thanks very much. And I should start by saying, thanks for giving me the time to chat with you guys. And I remember the last time we chatted, it was in person, and I wish those days were back again. And I trust that they will be at some point. Yeah, so we've been monitoring the situation in Ushuaia for the whole season, and we have, we've been becoming increasingly concerned about the ability of all operators, not just us, but the ability of all operators down there to really operate with the highest level of safety and the integrity of both the itinerary and passenger experience. At the end of the day, we have to ask ourselves, what is it we're actually selling? What is it that we're actually delivering? And if we can't feel that we can, in good conscience, guarantee a level of safety and security of the experience, I think we needed to make a different decision, which we did. And I believe it's the right one, right? I think postponing this for a bit will significantly enhance the product for you guys and also for us. So the quarantine situation in Ushuaia is essentially in total collapse. Anyone who is on a ship and tests positive, you have to get off, you have to quarantine. And there are no quarantine facilities. So many ships are now being stuck in the harbor with passengers on board, and that's simply not a situation that we're interested in participating in, nor I think are you guys. So a single positive case on board would mean that we cannot visit Grytviken, we cannot go to the Falklands, and therefore the integrity of this whole project is really in jeopardy. So, it's a painful decision. But I think it's the right one, and I'm proud that we've done this, and I'm proud of Ice Tracks for the support, and you guys potentially as well, for the support of actually doing the right thing. Sometimes discretion is the better part of valor. So that's the decision we took. That's why we took it. I can tell you there are a number of companies that have taken a different direction, and they're paying the price for it now. And frankly, their clients are paying the price, and I don't think that's the ethical way we ever want to run our business. So I'll stop my lecturing about safety, and I'll let you guys continue on. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, John. And it's I have to say this, and we've told you personally, but it may go public, that it's working with you has been just the best experience. And we couldn't have come through this without your support, so thank you. Caro, would you like to talk about the benefits of our new voyage dates?
Yes, absolutely. Just want to start, and I know John doesn't like me to say to share these with you, but I will anyway, and he'll understand why. And I think there are many companies, as he will said, that have taken another direction and are pushing along. And that has caused a tremendous financial strain for those companies. Obviously, there are companies with other intentions, not putting as a priority the integrity of the experience we want to deliver. And John has kindly put that financial strain into delivering an even better product for us next year. I think the biggest thing for me when he said he could do this was to add an extra day on the Antarctic Peninsula. Just off background information, if you want a trip operating an extra day on the Antarctic, it costs $1,200 per day. So he has thrown in the package of our quest as a gift for us, understanding why was he taking this decision, and for obviously coming along, which we are forever grateful, because we think right now we are in our hands is the possibility to make a project that has been in the making for the past 3 years, and an even better product. He has kept the prices who Angie negotiated back in 2019 for an expedition that is going to be in 2013. And I can tell you right now that these companies that are spending a lot of money to push on their seasons are spending a lot of money, more than they can afford, some. And the prices are going up. And we have seen prices for next season going up at 20%. So we are forever grateful to have this opportunity to postpone having a longer voyage, a better voyage. And I just have a few highlights here to make. One of those is a different ship. And I know some of you really like the Sea Venture, and some of you have already expressed some comments about the new ship, the Island Sky. So I'm going to address those comments. And John, obviously, please, if you want to jump in, I really just cut me off and add to whatever you want. But the ship is 118 passengers as the soldier's capacity. So this is a ship that carries almost 50 less passengers than the Sea Venture. For us, the intimacy of our quest, of what we are doing, of what we are commemorating, and who we have on board, Alexandra, Joe Spence, Tony, and Nick, the possibility to share in intimacy and really take advantage of these amazing people. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some, sorry, but to take advantage of these people that comes with a rich background is very, very important. Historically speaking, I'm going to let Angie add to those benefits, but from a wildlife point of view, we couldn't have a better time of the season to travel. I think spending New Year's Eve on the Beagle Channel and with the extra day in the Antarctic Peninsula, we are going to be on board and together to commemorate the date, a very special date for many, for Alexandra, obviously, the 6th of January. We will be all together on the ship. It's going to be a year off, but considering the circumstances and what COVID has done to all of us, I think we can all put up with 101 anniversary that rather than the round, the big zero number. Obviously, John already expressed how important and how devastating it would have been to lose Great Beacon as a landing, and Falklands was completely out of the question. And I know one, Chris, please help me. Sorry, I'm forgetting your name. Peter, Dr. Peter Gilbert, you've been in the Falklands until recently, and you know how difficult it would have been for us to come to the Falklands, any near the Falkland Islands. So with all these in mind, and with many more that it will come up during the thing, I cannot tell you how excited I am that we pulled the plug at the right time. This is before you packed, before you flew, before you got in Buenos Aires, or even, at the end of the trip when our disembarkation could have been jeopardized. or your experience on board the ship if someone would have tested positive and you would have had to isolate. So I don't think I have much more to say. I would be happy to take questions because I'm sure there are. But I think, Angie, if you want to add anything to the historical point of view, but I think I've highlighted the main part.
Well, I know that we're now going to miss Shackleton's birthday. And we did have one of our passengers celebrating his 60th birthday actually on the same day. But we now do have the date to honor Shackleton's death, which is on the 5th of January. I'm not exactly sure, Caro, you can tell me where we will be on that voyage on that particular day, out looking at the itinerary. But anyway, I hope, Alexandra says that you agree this is such an important day that we are going to honor, and we will honor it in a very special way. And thank goodness we've got a few months to arrange that. I think for me, that there was the chance that we couldn't land. I mean, it was bad enough knowing that we couldn't land in Stanley or Falklands, but not to land at Grytviken, which, you know, South Georgia is actually the gem of the trip. And we have put so much work into what we're going to do and how that day in Grytviken, how special it's going to be. And not to, I mean, it just would have taken the heart out of the whole voyage. So we've got, you know, now some months to do some more planning. Susan Rose, I know, I can see she's on the Zoom, and we've been working on the church service. She's been working on this beautiful china, which is all part of the voyage. Unfortunately, we're going to have to change the dates, but that's not a big thing. She'll do that. So yeah, for me, the wildlife is Caro's thing and the history is my thing. And so we're going to make it all very special.
There is one thing that I want to address, that it was, you know, it's a question asked on the phone privately, and you know, what were the main differences of the ship? And I'm sure you can ask all the questions later, but I just want to address a few things that I think are considerably important to highlight. I already said the size of the ship was what we consider the right size. You know, we were working with the Sea Venture because she obviously is a great ship and she's very fast. But we know that with a smaller ship, we're going to have a much better experience. And those of you that were with us in 2014 and in 2012, when we brought Frank Wild Ashes in South Georgia, you know what we create at the end of each day. You know, when we go for that nightcap in the bar, how important and enriching those moments are when we bring all these personal experiences. So for us to have a smaller ship is a tremendous benefit. Both ships were built around the same time, early 90s. Both ships are incredibly well maintained. And there is one difference that I want to highlight as well, that if you know the Sea Venture and you compare it to the Island Sky, the ice class classification of the hull, and I'm sure Nick can be more technical than me on this, but it's a lesser class, the Island Sky, which it would have been important if we were sailing in the Arctic. But in Antarctica, you don't have sea ice, literally, and even so in January. So in terms of ice class, yes, it's an important factor, but it's important in the Arctic where you actually have sea ice that you have to deal with. In the Antarctic, you literally don't have any sea ice. So that's a difference that is important to highlight. And the other thing, I mentioned New Year's Eve on the Beagle Channel, which I think is so special. Hopefully by then we will be celebrating a different type of New Year than we have for the past 2 years. And being in the Southern Ocean in January is the prime time. I don't think there is a better time. There is not a better time to see penguins and chicks. There is not a better time to see seals. There is not a better time to see whales feeding. There is not a better time to look for orcas or leopard seals. So I'm terribly excited about being there in January, because we always been doing these very special trips in November or in March. So to have these prime time dates nailed for us is just so very exciting. And that's it from me.
Right. John, do you want to add anything, or shall I hand over to Nick?
Yeah.
When we start?
I can make a few comments if it would help. And I did see a message in the chat. The Island Sky, the Hebridean Sky, and the Caledonian Sky are all Noble Caledonia ships, so they are sister ships. We've been operating the Hebridean Sky and the Island Sky for close to 10 years now, exclusively in Antarctica. And we love these ships. I mean, they're great. The cabins are classic. They're large, super comfortable. We like the ships quite a lot. I mean, the decision to add Sea Venture to the fleet was made for other reasons, mostly economic. But personally, if you know, and I work on the ships as well. I fortunately don't have to sit in front of my computer all day, every day. I love the Sky ships, so I would be super excited to be back on the Sky ships. So that's what I can say about the Island Sky. We've never had any issue with ice class or any of those sorts of things. I think operationally, personally, I prefer the Island Sky for Zodiac ops. I think they work smoother. But I'll deny I ever said that in public, so don't quote me. Yeah, and any questions about the ship, I'm certainly happy to answer. Caro mentioned that the SOLAS number, safety of life at sea number, is 118, but we run her at 112. So with your, with your special guests and lecturers, you're probably looking at roughly around 100 passengers, paying passengers. I think the intimacy factor is going to be fantastic, because this will be essentially exclusively your voyage.
Thanks, John. So, Nick, would you like to go on to questions, or would people like us to put up their hands or unmute and ask?
Why don't we do that? So good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the call. Thank you to Angie and Caro and John for those opening remarks, and Natalie for setting everything up. Ladies and gents, on the bottom of your screen, you can see a reactions button with an emoji facey thing on it. If you click on that, you can see that you can raise your hand, and then we can see who wants to ask a question. And at the same time, please do put questions into the chat room, and we'll try and field them all for you. And as was said at the beginning, there is a recording of the meeting so that people can recap later on. We've had the answers that various people, Angie asked and Lindsay asked about the ship, and John, thank you very much indeed for the answers on it. If I might say so, I agree with you, small is best, and the idea of a unique polar bus trip on a special ship like that is very good, really exciting. And if I may be so bold to say, I think the decision making around postponing the trip was absolutely on the money, and well done for doing so. And I love the honesty behind the decision and the openness in which it's been made. I don't think it would have been a surprise to anybody. In my opinion, the Antarctic season, the operators are all dead keen to start the season, and of course they should be. It's a business after all. But it was always going to be fraught, and I think your logic is entirely correct. Having spent much time inside tin boxes, ventilated tin boxes, I know only too well how quickly a bug can go round, and suddenly everybody's enjoying it. And unfortunately, the quarantine rules were not on our side. So there are some questions banging in on the chat. Haven't seen any hands go up yet. Andrew North asking whether the Montevideo trip is still included, and if so, whether it's outward or homeward bound, please, Caro.
So thank you, Andrew, because one of the points that I had to cover during the Zoom was obviously what the options are out there, and just if you just bear with me here 1 minute. There we go. It was just a duplicating voice there. Yes, the extension still on very much. I think going to Montevideo, it was very special for us. The ambassador, the Great British ambassador, was going to welcome us as a special party for our quest. So that's still on. Angie's resetting those decks with the embassy at Ushuaia. Obviously our land portion was always fully refundable, and our partners in both Argentina and Uruguay have been extremely kind, and they said, look, you just re-offer the trip. It's going to be at the same price, obviously, and it's going to be available after the voyage, and those that have signed for it and cannot make the date can take yourself off, and we'll refund that money. And those that didn't want to extend because of the COVID situation but now want to are more than welcome to join us. So I hope I have answered that question. And in that regard, Nick, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that and then take more questions if needed. So thank you.
Thanks, Caro. And just to coincide with the Montevideo trip question, another one asking if the new dates are definite. This is from Judith, wanting to change insurance. Dates, please, Caro.
So yes, the dates, and John is there and I'm looking at him. The dates are definite. And I must tell you one more thing about Polar Latitudes. When we were discussing this, he gave us 2 trips of his prime time season on board the Starship for Quest. So basically what John did was to pull out of the schedule 2 Antarctic Peninsula trips and make them into this very special trip for us with an extra day in Antarctica. So from all honesty, thank you from the bottom of our hearts, John, and yes, the dates are definite.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. And that's actually, these questions are coming up beautifully actually. So Anne Strathy agreeing, oh sorry, Gavin, sorry Anne, I didn't mean to be rude to you, Gavin. Agreeing with the decision to postpone, but concerned as how COVID cases have been getting on board. Perhaps, John, you might talk to that. I think most of us realise that COVID has a unique knack of getting pretty much anywhere. But John, in view of the charter flights and bubbles and so on, could you just perhaps give some background on that? And if I recall correctly, there are something like 9 ships anchored off Ushuaia at one point, struggling to get people ashore for quarantine and so on. Perhaps if you could elaborate on that as well, please.
Yeah, well, I'll start with the latter first. Currently, there are 7 ships at anchor, but that changes on a regular basis. So the former question, how does coronavirus get on board? Well, I think every nation and every industry would like to know the answer to that. And I can't claim that I know the answer. What I can tell you is that we developed a protocol, a health protocol that was designed by our medical director, but in conjunction with some very well-known epidemiologists here in the States. And it proved to be 100% successful against the standard coronavirus. There was not a single case on board. Everybody had a great experience. But Omicron, quite frankly, is a different animal. Every single ship down there now has cases on board. There's not a single one that does not have at least a few cases, and it's simply because it's so transmissible. The interesting phenomenon is no one's really sick. It simply seems to be much milder. I'm not a physician, nor do I claim to be one, but it's so transmissible that it's almost impossible to stop. So that's why we made the decision we made, right? Our protocol has proven to be 100% effective against standard coronavirus, but this is a whole another animal. And as we see the rates beginning to decline in places, my hope is, and my sense is, that this is going to start to decline and become a little bit more endemic instead of a pandemic. And really, that's the answer. The only answer I can give you is that the protocol we designed was 100% effective against Delta, but not Omicron.
Brilliant, thanks, John. And just by way of an example, I'm a trustee of an organization called Seize Your Future. We operate a sail training ship that spends 11 months of the year at sea, currently in the Caribbean. We take 40 kids to sea every time. And despite working in the closest bubble and exactly within the sort of protocols that John described, 10 or so of them caught the Omicron virus when they were visiting a coffee plantation. And we've been going through the same quarantine saga that John described. So it is very, very transmissible. So that's COVID. I think I saw a hand going up from somebody called Stuart. Please do put it up if it's gone down again for whatever reason. But from James B, will the charter flight to Ushuaia still be necessary, Caro?
That's a good question. The charter flight is not going to be as such, but I think it'd be, possible to make a group booking of flights with Aerolíneas Argentinas, and there are other two airlines that have come up in the scene offering that route. So when the time is a bit closer, we're going to start negotiating good rates. And that will give also the freedom to those of you, given the circumstances at the time, obviously, to stay longer in Ushuaia if you wanted to, or visit Patagonia if you wanted to. Ideally, we would like to prioritize this departure. I think it's an important lesson that COVID has left, that we need to put priorities. And if our departure to Antarctica is our priority, then we will ask everyone to, at all possible, to put all the remaining travels that they wish to make in South America after the ship. So we're not hoping to have a charter as such, but we're definitely going to put a plan for a group booking. And this brings me to a good point, because part of the land services that you paid were inclusive of a charter. Obviously, if we can negotiate better prices for those flights, that money is going to be obviously at your disposal to do whatever you want to do. We can refund it, or we can, if you want to stay extra time in Argentina or Chile, anything you want, we were absolutely flexible with that. So I already touched base on the land portion, so the extension, and I would like to take this opportunity to touch base on the flight portion of our trip. Because most of you, the last statement that you made was in relation to British Airways. Now, I had a very long meeting with British Airways 2 days ago, after a long exchange of emails, obviously. And, they said, well, we do understand, we're not going to charge you any penalties. Obviously, we're not going to refund your money, but we're going to, move your group booking to these new dates that you have once you have discussed it with your clients and you know how many people you're traveling. There is a good thing and a bad thing with British Airways. The good thing is that we have a group booking and we haven't given them full names. So if for whatever reason, and we are expecting some of you to not being able to join us, although we will, dearly miss you, and we don't want you to not come, but if you can't, so that seat can be sold to someone else because it doesn't have your name attached to that. The bad thing about that is that the voucher that British Airways is issuing to IceTrack is basically for the group seating. So we cannot individually give you the voucher so you can cash it with British Airways to fly to the Caribbean. Now the Antarctic trip is postponed. So there is a good thing and a bad thing about that. And I'm very happy to take, each of you on a one-to-one basis, on a personal call to discuss options. But I just wanted to add the conversation we had with British Airways.
Cool, thanks, Caro. Stuart, you've had your hand up for a while now, so please do ask your question, and I'll come back to the questions in the chat afterwards.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. Good evening to everybody, or fellow passengers for the end of the year. Yeah, my question really relates to coming from South Africa. We won't be using the British Airways flight out of London. And you've mentioned that you'll be flying on the 28th. I'm not sure what time of the day or night that will be. Is the gathering point still going to be Buenos Aires? And should we be arranging what date should we have arrived by in order to make sure we meet the flight from Buenos Aires to Ushuaia?
That's a good question, and it's not just you, Stuart. 6 of you coming from South Africa on this very special trip. So yes, the idea was to, we from London will be flying on the 28th of February in the evening, arriving very early on the 29th, and then pushing on to Ushuaia on the 29th. As long as you arrive in Ushuaia by the 29th or even the 28th, we will be happy with that. And obviously, again, you have paid your charter flight component to the trip. So we're very happy to work with you on that specific point and try to make it try to make it work for you and your schedule next year when you join us. Have I answered the question?
Yeah. Okay. So the gathering point will be Ushuaia and no longer a hotel in Buenos Aires. Okay. Thank you for that. Thanks, Caro.
Cool. Thank you, Stuart. Back to the chat, trying to keep up with it there. Yes, Jill Geisler, forgive me if I got it wrong. Of course, we'll keep you updated, and the team will focus on the virus situation and so on, as you suggest, and in exactly the same way as they have been for the last few months. Question from Trevor Cornford, which follows on really from the issue of flights and how they're ring fenced. Could you just talk a little bit about funding, Caro, and how it's ring fenced, please?
Yes, sorry, Nick. Can you repeat the question?
So Trevor has asked, presumably the funds paid will be held safely in ring fence. I guess, and he sent it to us, and oh no, it's fine. So I'm guessing Trevor's question is the funds that have been paid will be held safely in ring fenced. You mentioned the prices being retained. They'll be the funds will be ring fenced for the purposes of the postponed dates, the new cruise.
Yes. So to answer that question, I think it's gonna put everyone at rest. Both iStrix has a client protected account at the HSBC in the UK, which is a very difficult account to have. Banks are really not offering it anymore to travel agents, but Angie and I were very lucky at the very beginning of our company when we put in place this trusted account. Basically what it means, if the company goes bankrupt, that money cannot be touched, and is protected for your own sake, not for the company but for the client. In the same way, a different way, but on the same line, Polar Latitude has financial safeguards in place. Partially the payments as the group payment, I'm not talking individually now, the monies obviously have moved to Polar Latitudes, and iStrix currently also have part of that payment in the client protected account. And we believe that with the added value that we put onto the itineraries by adding an extra day in Antarctica, an extra night in a 5-star hotel in Ushuaia, with 2 nights now, and all the other things that we're throwing into these new dates for the quest, the money is not losing value at all. And I'll be happy to share with you the new prices for the quest. So anyone that wants to join the quest, which I'm sure there will be many people from now that will put their hands up, will be paying on the standard cabins and 18% more, on the sort of middle range cabins, 20% more, and on the premium cabins, the rise is quite significant, and it's reaching, you know, the high 40s. And there is a reason for this. It's not just a ridiculous increase in price. First of all, we are giving, John is giving us a more expensive ship. When you have, this is just a very simple math. When you have 100 people paying for fuel, or when you have 180 people paying for fuel, it's just the same fuel is divided, you know, amongst more heads. So we do have a smaller ship, and that costs more. John is giving us that ship for the same money, for those of you that have paid. So your money is making profit in a way, because you're getting a longer departure and a better ship, and you're not being charged a penny more. Say on the financial safeguards, and this is obviously information that, you know, Angie and I have made a good cushion of our business, a good cushion for our business financially. Obviously that has been made over the years. We've been very conservative. We are always on the conservative side, and we are facing the challenges of and the difficulties of making travel happen, but we are not facing financial difficulties at all. We haven't for the past 2 years, and we don't foresee them in the upcoming year either.
I should add we atoll protected as well, which is another safeguard. Well, you are, all our passengers are atoll protected.
Thank you, Caro and Angie, and I'm grateful to the way that Ice Tracks and Polar Latitudes have been so thoughtful about how they provide compensation or retain the opportunity for people to join a cruise. Peter Wright's asking a very fair question. There was no indication that there was a problem with COVID on board ships until the email this week. Meanwhile, and therefore, will there be more warning next time? Perhaps, John, you might help with answering this. My understanding was that the Omicron variant hit the cruise industry very late in December, 31st December, something like that, and suddenly ships were finding themselves in trouble. It happened very suddenly, and there was a lot of work that went into revising protocols, sorting out what the pros and cons were, and then ships started stacking up in the first week or so of January. So it's all been extremely sudden. Everything seemed to be going quite well until very late in December, was my understanding.
You're asking me? Yes. What you said is exactly what I would say. We got our first case reported on board at the end of December. We came into Ushuaia on December 31st, the night of December 31st, which unfortunately was the day that the Argentine government decided to change all the protocols. So as we arrived, it was pretty much chaos. None of the local officials had any idea what was going on. The national protocols had changed. And in those past, 14, 15, 16 days, 3 weeks maybe, the situation developed into what it is. So was there a COVID problem prior to the new year? No, there was not.
And I think whilst that sounds like a long time, I think we could have thrown up and said, that's it, it's all off, and we have no answer to all of your questions. Whereas what has been happening has been a very measured approach, thinking through what the solutions are. And here we are discussing a completely revised program for December this year, or late December this year, in a way that hopefully is more constructive than it might otherwise have been. Jules asked again, will we be updating the, oh yes, that's been answered. From Morpy, I'm not sure who Morpy is. Should we have atoll certificates? Please, Caro, maybe?
Please, yeah. Chris is going to tackle that.
Yes.
Hi, Chris.
You all have certificates. We were going to send them as part of the final documents because there were a few changes along the way, but ATOL certificates have been issued for everyone. So next week we will probably be sending them to everyone who is a UK resident or was planning to leave from the UK. So there's no worries about that. You will all have an ATOL certificate.
Thank you, Chris. Sorry, I forgot you were there. You weren't on the screen. Judith, thank you for your kind comments on how we've dealt with it. I say we very boldly. It wasn't me at all. It was Ice Tracks and Polar Latitudes. Rosie, you've asked two questions. If we could answer your first one, which is whether or not COVID will be sorted by December, we could make a lot of money. But I think my sense of it, for what it's worth, and John, you might want to comment, is I think that by the end of this year, we'll all be living with COVID and Omicron, unless, of course, another dratted Greek alphabet letter comes out of the boondocks and hits us over the course of the next 12 months. John, any comment?
Yeah, the only thing I can comment is I see an earlier comment that U.S. authorities put Argentina on the changed travel plans list late December. Yes, it sort of reinforces what we just said, that everything, the world shifted at the end of December. And this mostly hit the fleet, the entire fleet, not just Polar Latitudes, in the new year. Will we see changes? I don't know. All predictions that I hear are that this is going to start to become endemic and not pandemic, that we will have learned to live with some level of sniffles and runny nose. But I can only say that we continually monitor the situation, and certainly we'll keep everyone updated.
Yeah, and I think that is very much our job, Caro. You will agree that we will keep everyone updated. I mean, 10 months, 11 months will go by very quickly, but if everyone's happy about it, we will certainly each month send out a special newsletter to all of you covering how things are going, our new plans, and so forth. So yeah, rest assured, that's what we like to do anyway. We like everything to be personal.
Thank you, Angie. Stuart, I've seen your hand. Hang on a second, please. Rosie asking a question about cabin shares on the new ship, and also perhaps Chris, you could explain what an ATOL certificate is as well. So cabin shares first for Caro, and then ATOL certificates for Chris, please.
Rose, I'm wondering if you are referring to your sort of sharing situation with your friends and stuff. Yeah, we, as I said, the Island Sky offers bigger cabins. So no matter which category that you booked, your cabins will be slightly, in some cases, decently larger. So there is going to be more space independently, whether you booked a balcony or a four-hole or a triple share or the owner suite. So all those cabins are offering more comfort, more room, and we can discuss, Rose, where on the ship is your cabin, and because this trip, the new Quest, has been put together, joining two smaller, shorter itineraries. I'll be working with Polar Latitudes very rapidly to make provisions that the cabins that are allocated for the Quest clients are those that we put in first, because this trip is going to then be resold as the new Quest with new dates and prices, obviously.
Cool,
have I answered your question, Rose?
Yeah, I think you have.
Yeah, she said.
Okay, and Chris, for the ATOL certificates, please, and also if you could just see, Susan Rose has asked where she gets gin and tonic between now and no, she's asked about travel insurance, and do we just inform the insurance company of the delay?
Chris?
So basically, the ATOL certificate is a document that gives your voyage and all the elements on the voyage that you book through ice-tracks expeditions, shall we say, flights, land services, or whatever you book with us, financial protection in the unlikely case that something happens to ice-tracks. So this is only for UK residents or people living from the UK. Starting their trip in the UK. So unfortunately, Paul, that doesn't apply to you or Jake because you will be in the US. But everyone with a UK passport living from the UK or people living from the UK without necessarily a UK passport will be protected by the ATOL certificate that we will send as part of final documents. But again, they will be sent next week for your peace of mind. I tell me if you still have questions or I answered.
Brilliant.
I would love to answer the travel insurance question because this brings me to a very specific point. So most definitely, we will make all the documents that you need to do that before you approach them with your claim. We suggest you get all the documents from us. We are still, and John, do correct me, but there is a process that we have to go with insurances. And I said it before, we have a chain of financial security and safeguards and insurance here in place. So because we're taking this decision with an orderly manner, we're going to proceed the same way with insurance. So we're going to wait, we're going to ask you to wait to receive a formal letter stating exactly and wording this letter in purpose for a travel insurance claim. Obviously, there are people that we know already that are will not be available to join us. For those people, there is also an option to reschedule your Falkland, South Georgia, and Antarctic trip. And we will give you the option of different dates if the quest dates are not good for you. And also we can even give you a travel voucher for 2023-2024 season in case you still feel uncomfortable traveling next year, next season. So we have that option in place as well. We like to discuss that on a one-to-one basis. But for those of you that think, you know, that's it for me, I'm out, then we do have to kick-started our process to make the proper claims with the right travel insurance. So in order to safeguard your investment on this trip, we'll ask you kindly to contact me, and my phone obviously is going to be open to discuss this personally with you and take all the time in the world. But rest assured that provisions between Polar Latitudes and ice tracks have been made to safeguard the integrity of your funds as well. We know this is an investment. This is not just a holiday. It's definitely not a holiday delivering service for us. We put heart and soul into the quest, and we understand if you cannot take part in the quest, we fully understand that, and we will fully support you through the process, administrative process.
Okay, thank you, Caro. So some of these questions are starting to get quite detailed. So if you do feel you have specific circumstances that need covering, please do contact Ice Tracks and ask more detailed questions. Jumping around here, just keeping on the sort of the travel rules type things. Question from Susan Rose: presumably we still have to have 6 months on our passport. I'm guessing that's a yes, Chris. Thank you.
Yes,
and some from Anne Strathy again. 2 questions from Anne. One about UK insurance policies do not cover simple cancellation by operators and leave you to seek refunds from operators. Actually, I see James is nodding his head to that. Perhaps just touch on that, please, Chris, Slant, and Caro. Have an argument about who's going to answer it. No, you're muted, Caro.
Sorry. Thank you, Natty. Yes, so it's just quite specific to dive into, because travel insurance, I know some of you have chosen Campbell and Irvine, and some other of you had other travel insurance in place, different grades of coverage, some with cancellation, some with premium cancellation. So all of it. We will assist you through the process entirely, but it's very difficult for me to answer this question without sort of walking on mud and mixing what a contract with one company or another company will mean in terms of wording. I don't know whether I haven't answered the question, but I would like to tackle that on a one-to-one basis if that will be possible.
Yeah, if I could just add, I think the IceTrax teams are very willing to provide one-on-one services, because to make sure that you're absolutely clear on the concerns that you have. I feel we've sort of got a sort of operational level of understanding across the whole meeting, and perhaps those more detailed questions could be directed via email, telephone call, and so on. We still haven't answered the question of how Susan Rose is going to party for the next 12 months, but we'll sort that one out later on. Just before I give the floor to Stuart, Anne has asked, has Island Sky been to Antarctica before or just to the Arctic? I'm guessing she has. John, perhaps you'd like to comment.
Yeah, I can address that. We've been using both the Island Sky and the Hebridean Sky for a decade. Noble Caledonia also takes the Island Sky into Antarctica, so she's been there many times.
Lovely ships, lovely ships. Very, very privileged to have the chance to all go as a team on board one of those steamers. So Stuart, patiently waiting with his digital arm aching.
Thank you. Thanks, Nick. Just two quick questions. One, do we have to pass an immigration when we land at the Falklands and South Georgia? And as British overseas territories and a non-British citizen, is one required to have visas or anything of that nature?
Good point, Stuart. We were just exploring what visas are needed for South Africans into the UK now after Brexit. It was Brexit. It was just something that Chris was doing just before our meeting. Would you let me come back on this? Because with Brexit, sort of things changed a little bit. Before it was part of the Schengen visa, and now it's not. But yeah. I will get back to you. Falklands, yeah, Falklands and South Georgia are part of Great Britain, indeed, but they have different immigration policies. So if you allow us to get back to you on that one.
But there is some sort of formal immigration department that we go through when we land. It's not just, you don't just walk ashore and wander up the high street.
No, that is done by the captain and the hotel manager was actually the first mate, I believe, that deal with our immigration yes. paperwork while we enjoy that time on shore. So when you're on a ship, that gets done by the crew rather than you personally with them.
South Africans have required a visa to visit the UK for about the last 5 or 6 years, long before Brexit, because of problems with our passports being copied, I believe. The second question related to, is there a reason we don't visit Stromness, or a reason we can visit Stromness as well as Grimsbacon? Because to the Shackleton trip, of course.
We definitely will visit Stromness. It was a very important part of our trip, especially the last 4 miles of the Shackleton trek from Fortuna Bay to Stromness. So yes. Those of you that are fitted enough to get 4 miles under your feet on South Georgia grounds and come down the famous waterfall will walk to Stromness from inland, and those that prefer the comfort of the ship will sail around and enjoy Stromness, the approach of Stromness, which is an impressive bay. And we all gather at the shore there and have our shore excursion. So Stromness was always very much part of the itinerary, and it will remain to be a strong sort of stronghold for our trip in South Georgia.
Okay, that's very good to hear. Thank you, Caro.
Brilliant, thanks, Stuart. A similar question from Jill Giesler about visitors from the US. Caro, I think the same factors are applying.
Sorry, would you, I'm not Jill, and what about visitors from the US? Oh, yeah,
from the US?
yeah, no visas are needed at all.
Susan Farrar, the chances of landing on Elephant Island, that's a bit like understanding whether or not COVID will be affecting us in December. Chances of landing on Elephant Island, I think I've tried to land on Elephant Island about 10 times and never achieved it. I flew over it once.
You're on Angie's club.
Pardon?
You are on Angie's club. You've been trying to do the same for the last 15 years.
So I think Elephant Island is a punt. It's all to do with weather. But either way, you get a pretty damn good impression of what it was like for Shackleton trying to get himself ashore there, along with his team. I'm just going to comment on Trevor Cornford's post there, saying that he's got selection of Shackleton letters and ephemera and so on. And we're really looking forward to hearing what you have to say at the fireside chats, Trevor. One of the nicest things about the Ice Tracks trips is the chance to tell stories around the bar and to hear everybody's experiences of polar history and many other subjects as well, way beyond polar history. So looking forward to seeing what you've got and the stories that you might have to tell, along with all of the other speakers are going to be there. 341 sleeps to go, Gavin. Yeah, that's 341 G&Ts, isn't it, Susan?
We'll all have to chip in to send enough Jane stocks to Susan then.
So we've been going nearly an hour, ladies and gentlemen, and lots of questions have been asked, and hopefully the answers have been satisfactory. I'll just reiterate that the team are there at Ice Tracks to answer your more specific and personal circumstances, and so please do feel free to phone them, email them, so on. They don't sleep, and they'll be very willing to answer your questions. Any afterburners for anybody via the chat room or via a hand raise, please?
Nick, I'd be really interested to know from Alexandra, what would her grandfather be saying with this situation? Zaz, if she's still there. Is she still with us?
You're muted, Zaz.
You can you unmute, Zaz?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
yes.
Loud and clear.
I think he would say difficulties are just things to overcome.
Well said.
Yeah, he who fights and goes away lives to fight another day. And it's a good, this is very much a 30, what was it, Zaz? 37, no, not 37, 87, 89 degrees south. It's a long way south decision.
Alexandra, yes. I just wanna, it's very difficult to read, but on that purple column that is behind me, there is a beautiful ceramic of you with the photo of your grandfather that James Butler sketched, and Susan Rose made into this beautiful little, the word is not coming to me, but it's a beautiful portrait. And below that is written, difficulties are just things to overcome after all. And I've written that handwrite on the wall. Is one of my mottos. So thank you very much for bringing that up on this meeting.
Okay, I think that answers, yeah, I agree. A Shackletonian decision, well made. So Angie, let's go to John just to make any final comments that he would wish, because and for us to thank, I'd just like to thank him personally and on behalf of JCS members for the very professional way in which Polar Latitudes has made this decision and is looking after us as clients. I'm really, really impressed. Thank you very much indeed, John. But any final comments from you before I give the floor finally to Angie?
Well, thank you all for allowing me to do this. It's an honor for me, actually. you know, when you get to be my age, you get the luxury of making decisions that you want to do versus have to do. And, you know, the ability to do this with you guys is, you know, it is in fact an honor for me. And I think next year, I don't want to break any news, but I think I'm going to retire soon. Time to hang up my spurs. So this will be my last voyage going with you guys.
Oh, well, that's a privilege in itself. Very.
We'll see about that.
Well, we should expect some serious war stories from you, John. That's for sure. Yeah. Tell us a dit about COVID.
Yeah. Oh, believe me, I'll bend your ear a bit. Don't worry about it.
John, I'd like you to mention a few days when we were speaking, and because John and I think we're the oldest in the industry, but that aside, you're probably the wisest. But John, what did you tell me you'd been through over all these years? You've been in the industry for so long, and you just went through all those. Do tell us.
Well, yeah, you know, we went through the first Gulf War, and we went through the financial meltdown. Then we went through 9/11. Then we went through SARS and MERS. And any number of other things. So the advantage to being old is that this is not our first rodeo, as I say over here.
Well,
you're just about to crack the Russian invasion of Ukraine as well, John.
No, I have that on my list for next week. I was going to come over and try to tackle Brexit, but I guess you guys have sorted that out.
Anyway, thank you. Many thanks to everyone for joining us. And I particularly like to thank Caro and Natalia and Chris. They're over in Patagonia. I'm here in Warwickshire. I praise and thank Caro every day that she was in the industry about 15 years before I even sort of put my big toe into it. But thank you all, and thank you, John, and thank you, Nick. I've got a list of all our special guests, and we will be round that fireside having our chat. So thanks to everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody. Looking forward. 341 sleeps to go.
Bye.
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 A number on